My name is Nathan Brock, and this is the informative speech. I'm in Hunter Library, the classroom, and the date is March 5th, 2020. All right. How many of you in here drive an older or used vehicle and think that it's on the brink of death? A lot of you. All right. What if I told you that there's maybe a way to address this problem? Maybe you don't have to pull into the parking garage with a squeaky noise that's embarrassing. Maybe you don't have to go down the highway while your car's wobbling, or maybe you don't have to turn the radio up to cover the sound that you or your bank account's not ready to address. I'm Nathan Brock, and I'm here tonight to tell you different ways on how to make your car run better. There's really two methods of approaching this, and that is maintenance and upgrades, and we'll dive into maintenance first. Maintenance is really the cheapest route to go, and we'll start with tires. There's three components to tires that's really important on maintenance-wise. That's inflation and rotation and alignment. Inflation is more important than many people think because Sears Automotive discovered last year that 80,000 wrecks occurred due to a failed tire. And actually, if you have an SUV, you're 45% more likely to roll due to a failed tire, whereas with other makes and models, it's 25%. Now, when it comes down to alignment and rotation, that's more so just to save you money in the long run. The tread will wear more evenly if you stay on top of this. Another thing is your oil change. It's important to stay up to date on this because what the oil does is cool your engine and keeps it lubricated properly and really just helps promote longevity of your car engine. When you stay on top of this, it really just keeps the fluid in the engine running properly and keeps the sludge out or the grime from the particles that come off of your engine. It just makes it run better. Another thing is your engine coolant. This is pretty simple and easy to check. It's as simple as popping the hood of your car and looking for the coolant icon, which is in the image on the screen. What you can do is usually look at the coolant tank, which has a full line indicator. You need to stay up to date on that and keep it at that level. And if you do so, it'll help keep your car from overheating, because overheating of the engine is a pretty serious matter. It costs a lot of money. Another thing that you need to keep up with is your air filter. This is one that people commonly skip or just neglect, not out of harmful intentions, they just don't think about it. And it's actually one of the easiest and the cheapest because you can clean the air filter usually with water or air. And what it does is it also gives a lot of signs to let you know that it's going bad. The number one is, as it is in the image, you can see where it's dirty versus clean. Another thing is you'll get a decrease in gas mileage, and in fact, you might even experience reduced horsepower due to the dirty air filter. So it gives you a few warning signs before it goes out, or you need to replace it or clean it. Another thing that a lot of people don't think about is the fuel filter. How many of you in here drive around on empty and say that you'll be okay and you'll make it to the gas station? Pretty common problem. It's actually terrible on your fuel filter. What the fuel filter does is, in fact, keep what specialists call it as gunk out of your engine, and the fuel filter will get stopped up when you drive around on empty because it's sucking all the nasty stuff in your gas tank right up to the filter. The fuel filter gives a lot of signs before it goes out, such as hesitation, lower miles per gallon, and even in manual vehicles such as stalling. So it gives you a lot of signs, and in fact, Car ID, which is a pretty renowned service, stated that if you have a newer car, typically a fuel filter lasts for about 50 to 60,000 miles, whereas an older car is 30,000 miles. I personally have not changed my fuel filter, probably need to because I'm over 100,000 miles, so really just pay attention to the symptoms that are coming along with a bad fuel filter. Another one is your car battery. I know nobody in the room really wants to be stranded late at night when it's cold without a car that'll crank. So that's really important to stay on top of. The thing about a car battery is your temperature outside really has an effect on a car battery, and you need to stay on top of the corrosions and the connections. So corrosion, such as the one in the picture, is the stuff on the blue around the terminal, and that means that it's really time to either clean the terminal or it might be time for a new battery. So really a battery is all about staying on top of it and just checking to make sure it looks okay and not experiencing any problems starting your car. Another one is the transmission fluid. This one's pretty straightforward. You just need to stay on top of it because a lot of moving components in a transmission. If the fluid's not properly updated, then your transmission can mess up, and that's a lot of money. So simply put, maintenance boils down to a lot of oversee, and there's two main things that really boil down to it is the exterior care too. And the easiest thing is to park your car indoors. If you park it indoors, it keeps it out of the conditions, helps with a lot of things such as the battery, paint, and all that kind of things. And another thing is to wash your car. If you wash your car, it keeps salt from the bottom of the roads that your tires sling on there, keeps that off, and it keeps a lot of things from rusting out. And this is like vitally important during the winter weather. Now, on to upgrades. Many of us would love to drive cars that we've all dreamed of in the Fast and Furious series, but for most of us, we're not going to get there. So we stick with the maintenance because it's the cheapest way to address how to make our car run better. But upgrades are a nice touch to our vehicles, and they could be more affordable than you think. Now, the main upgrade that's really a general idea to go with is tires. Simply buying high performance tires can save you a lot of money in the long run, but to be quite honest, it's going to cost a lot up front. But they do typically have better tread on them, they wear better, but as I said earlier, it's pretty pricey. Another system or another thing that you can upgrade is your braking system. Everybody in here knows that it's important to stop, and there's probably been a time when you wish you could have stopped quicker, or the person behind you, whichever one it was.
Oh yeah.
So upgrading the braking system is a very effective and safer way to go about upgrading your car. But the negative of it is that it is around $300 to $4,000, anywhere around there. So most people don't go that route. Another way to go about it is your air filter. Now, most of the time you can buy a replacement air filter that will fit right into where your car's stock air filter went. So those typically cost around $50 to anywhere over $100 to $200, which is not that pricey in the grand scheme of things. But you can also go a different route, put a cold air intake in your engine. What you can do with the cold air intake is it pushes cold air in as it filters air, therefore it gives you more horsepower and helps supposedly give you more gas mileage according to K&N. Another thing, which is the cheapest, is your spark plugs, and it's also the most effective. Your spark plugs simply ignite the gas, keep the engine running, and just helps all around with the motor in itself. So this is actually the cheapest route to go because they typically cost around $2 to $3 or 10 or more a piece, which is pretty cheap in the grand scheme of upgrades. Another route that you can go is synthetic oil. Now, this is a little bit more expensive than typical oil changes, but it does last longer. For example, according to Minikin, you can typically go around 5,000 to 7,000 miles on a synthetic oil change rather than 3,000 on the typical oil change. And it typically has less grudge because it's not as thick as normal car oil, and supposedly you can get better miles per gallon. According to Minikin, you can almost get 1 to 2% more miles per gallon if you stay up to date on it. Now, another route is your car's battery. Now, as addressed earlier, you don't want to be stranded without a car that'll crank, or with a car that won't crank. So if you buy a high performance battery, it'll help you stay on top of the cranking ability, and it gives your car the most power without the engine running. So it's a good all around purchase, and it typically means that the batteries are more temperature resistant, such as weather, and living in extreme climates, such as if you will live in a mild climate at home and then go to school where it's drastically cold. It makes a big difference. So, in conclusion, what I've discovered is that maintaining your car or making your car run better is usually less time consuming and not as expensive as you would think it would be. Also, I've taken the time out of my day to go along with some of these improvements or maintenances myself. In the picture, that is my high quality battery in my truck, and I went with the high performance to ensure that my battery life would be as best as possible. And I've also attached a cold air intake. I have experienced a few miles per gallon increase, so these do pay off and it does help out in the long run. So it's just important to stay on top of this. And the most important thing from this is that you need to stay on top of your fluids. If you keep up with the maintenance, you might not even have to go the upgrade route, and it might save you money in the long run. These are my sources. Thank you all for coming, and hope you have a good evening.